Phototechie, I hope you're all doing well. Today's video is a comparison between the Stealth Ultra and the Elite Series 2. I'm only going to be talking about their performance. I won't be talking about their value, what you get in the box and stuff. This is basically just showing the features they have and what it was like for me to use them on my Series X for competitive FPS gaming. So you might be considering the Elite Series 2 or the Stealth Ultra because you need wireless capability for your series consoles. One thing I'll tell you from the get-go, if you are going to be plugging a headset in, definitely go with the Elite Series 2. The Stealth Ultra has issues if you are plugging a headset into the audio port. The wireless signal is just all over the place. I made a latency video on this controller, you can check that out. But in this one, I'm just quickly going to show you guys X input results of what happens. If you don't have a headset plugged in, it's actually a really good wireless connection. It will try and do 250 hertz. Polling rate is still not as good as the wired connection because the wired I can actually bring it down to 3.8 milliseconds. This is over 4 milliseconds. But look what happens if I connect a headset. Now I've shown this on Xbox. This one I'm just going to show you guys on X input test. So I've just connected the headset and I'm going to make sure that the Windows recognize this as the audio device. It's been recognized now. So wirelessly connected, connect the headset in. And if I do the X input test now, and this is what happens. It's like the dongle cannot handle this audio stream and the input and out, basically registration of the controller. It goes all over the place. It's not consistent. Even for multiplayer, even for single player games, I think this is not right. Because imagine from 4 millisecond average, we've gone to 12 milliseconds. And you can see the numbers are just all over the place. So if you want wireless, I would highly recommend you go with the Elite Series 2 or any of the third-party controllers that are based on the standard Xbox controller, because the wireless performance with a headset plugged in will be much better on those controllers. The audio experience out of the 3.5mm to me is like the best on the Elite Series 2. Not only the sound feels very fuller and nice, but the volume output feels a little bit louder than other controllers. Now, I wanted to test this, how much louder it was. I don't have a sound meter or anything yet. That's something I'm thinking about. But I basically set up a test where I put my mic between the controllers. And I just wanted to see if the file could pick up if one controller was louder than the other. Because to my ears, the Series 2 definitely felt a little bit louder. So here I have the Stealth Ultra, and I'm looking at these meters, the volume levels, the file that was recorded by the mic. So it sort of goes to like -6 dB on the levels there. And if I play the same on so exactly the same setup, I put the Elite Series 2, same headset, mic, everything is the same, weapon is the same, everything is in the firing range, and the Series 2 is here now. So Series 2 was definitely getting louder than the Stealth Ultra. So it wasn't something that only I was hearing, it's actually happening. But the Stealth Ultra has one trick up its sleeve. It has superhuman hearing. It's a different sound signature. It's not something that I like. But when we go to superhuman hearing, things change. It's actually louder than the Elite Series 2 now. Now, unfortunately, if we go into the bass and treble boost, which is actually a good profile on this one, still, it's not as loud as the Series 2 in the bass and treble boost. Also, the Stealth Ultra has options on board for the audio control, so you don't have to go into your Xbox settings. You can go into the multifunction button and press your back buttons in conjunction, and it will change your game chat mix. And you can even decrease and increase the volume. Another thing we can do on the Stealth is basically to change our mic gain, and which is available on the controller. You don't have to go into the settings. The Xbox don't have a mic gain settings anyway. I've tested the mic on the medium settings and the highest gain, and it definitely makes a difference. This is the EPOS H6 Pro plugged into the Stealth Ultra. The mic level is set at level 5. This is the EPOS H6 Pro plugged into the Stealth Ultra. The mic gain level is at level 10. This is the EPOS H6 Pro connected to the Elite Series 2, which is connected via a USB cable to the PC. So audio experience is actually a premium experience. I still think the Elite Series 2 has the edge when it comes to just that plain audio output without any processing going on. I still personally like the sound signature of the Series 2. Feels a bit more fuller to me on the EPOS A6 Pro, but Stealth Ultra will definitely give you a premium experience when it comes to audio. Next up, I tested for the latency. You've seen my previous videos where basically I'm shooting at 240 frames, and from the moment I move the stick, I'm basically counting how many frames it takes for the screen to register. So I wanted to do the test between the wired and the wireless, Elite Series 2 and the Stealth Ultra. Results are very interesting. So the Series 2 wired actually got one 8-frame result, and then it was consistently 10 frames from the moment the stick move and the register. And when we go to wireless, similar thing. I got 10 frames. I did get one 9-frame, but consistently 10 frames on the Elite Series 2. So you will see that it's a little bit slower, but it's very consistent. The Stealth Ultra wired connection is absolutely amazing. So I got 9 and 8, consistently 9 and 8 frames. And I never saw a 10-frame result going wired with the Stealth Ultra. It was always 8 or 9 frames, and very, very consistent at that. So wired, I would say this is one of the best performing controllers, and it was the same thing whilst gaming with the controller. I could definitely feel really connected to the controller, and it shows in the test results as well. When we come to wireless, things change a little bit. I started seeing the 10-frame results on the Stealth Ultra in wireless, and it was a little bit inconsistent. Again, this time it's basically 10, then I would even see an 8-frame result. And then is showing a 9-frame, and then 10 and 10. So definitely going wireless, there is very little bit latency at it, and that shows in X input test as well. With a wired, you have average of 3.8 milliseconds, and when you go wireless dongle, it's over 4 milliseconds, like 4.0 something. So I did definitely see that in my test results as well. But these are basically without the headset plugged in. With the wired, if I plug in the headset, I did not see any change, and that's the same thing with the Elite as well, and the Stealth Ultra as well. All right, let's talk about triggers. So Elite Series 2 have these 2 trigger stops, and so you can cut out 50% of the trigger pull, or you can cut out like 90% of the trigger pull. The good thing on the Elite is when you set these, it auto-adjusts the maximum dead zone. So it's not something that we have to do anything in the app or whatever. So this is the full treble I have, and it's a linear pull. And then if I go to the middle settings, it will map the whole linear pull to that 50% treble that's left. And if I cut everything off, then I have 0 and 100 basically, making the instant triggers. The triggers work really well on the Elite Series 2. I think it's a very good feature that they basically give 2 different options. I've never had complaints with the triggers on the Series 2, but yeah, overall very, very good experience. When it comes to bumpers, it's a bit strange experience on the Series 2. My bumper is playing up, and I've actually figured out a way to test how, if your bumper has any issues and stuff. So if I press my bumper in, and if I just move my, keeping it pressed, I'm just moving my finger, and you will see that it will come and go. Where I still have the button pressed, but it will just come and go. And sometimes it doesn't register my press, and then it will do a double register in game, and this really annoys me. I don't know why this is going on. It doesn't have that much playtime, but yeah, this bumper, the tack switch inside needs something doing. It's not performing well. Left bumper is absolutely fine. So if I press and hold, I'll move my finger around it, it will say it will stay pressed, and yeah, so if the bumpers are working, then it's actually a really decent experience. But in my case, yeah, they're not working that well, especially my right one playing up a lot. The Stealth Ultra has 1-stage trigger stops, and there's nothing in the middle, so you engage it cuts about 90% of the trigger pull. And once again, yeah, we do have the auto adjust max dead zone settings here. So without them engaged, yeah, we have the linear 0 to 100 pull. The moment I engage them, I have 0 or 100. And what I really like about these triggers is the fact that the resistance is quite nice. I can actually rest my fingers on there, and I've never had an accidental actuation of these triggers. They work extremely well for single fire weapons, and I've actually gotten so used to them. I honestly really, really like their triggers on the Stealth Ultra. From their physical design to how they function, I think these are really, really good triggers, and I really enjoy using these triggers a lot. The bumpers on these Stealth are using micro switches, and these feel very nice to use. We do have a little bit of a slop, you can say, like a dead press initially, and then it presses the button in, but feels so nice to use. Never had any issues. They're working perfectly for me. So resting the fingers onto the triggers, moving up there is actually such a good experience for bumpers. I honestly really, really like using these bumpers. So triggers and bumpers, for me personally, I think Stealth Ultra definitely wins this against the Elite Series 2. The face buttons on the Elite Series 2 are your standard membrane face buttons. I've never had any issues with them, and it's standard controllers or any other controllers that use this type of basically buttons that work absolutely perfectly for me. The D-pad is a metal conductive dome film style one, so this has like that crisp presses. Now, I have seen people having issues with the D-pad where it's not doing the register the first time and then double press, similar to what's happening with the tack switch in the bumper. But mine worked absolutely perfectly. I don't play any fighting games, so I haven't put it through any abuse or anything like that. But yeah, that's something that potentially can happen on the Elite Series 2. To me, I don't mind. Yeah, the buttons absolutely worked perfectly for my gaming experience. But if you are playing games where you're pressing them a lot, that's something that you might want to think about. The Stealth Ultra is using micro switches in the ABXY buttons and the D-pad, and they feel really nice to press. So I do think this is an advantage going with the Stealth Ultra. If you are playing any games that you are, using the face buttons, I think you'll have a really good experience with the Stealth Ultra. Not only they feel nicer to press, but they're saying that these are rated for 5 million presses. I have come across some info where people are saying that the micro switches can develop issues similar to tack switches where you might not get a register the first time and then you get like double registers and stuff. So far, it's been absolutely perfectly for me, but I will be the worst one to tell you guys their longevity because I don't use them a lot. I do use the back buttons way more than the face buttons. D-pad again here is the micro switch one, and to me feels very nice. I've never had any accidental actuations of while pressing it, because in game I actually do use it with my right thumb because I want to keep running and use field upgrades or whatever like that. Never had any accidental actuations of different, if I wanted to press the right one, I always press the right one. To me feels really nice, and I would highly recommend, if you play fighting games or something, definitely check some other reviews out, what people are thinking about that. My views are on it. Yeah, they feel actually very, very nice to press. So for me, it's definitely an upgraded experience on the Stealth Ultra when compared to the Elite Series 2. The back button. So this is where I think the Elite Series 2 is probably the best controller with 4 back buttons, because not only they are very well placed, we have the ability to use previous gen, which is what I'm doing. So I have 3 Series 1 buttons and 1 Series 2 button installed right now. What this allows me to do is, if I want to, on the right hand side, because I'm using the shorter Series 2 and the shorter Series 1 and shorter Series 2, I can just use one finger, the middle finger, to press like either or. And on this side, I can actually do a simultaneous press. This is something absolutely amazing on the Series 2. I still have to find a 4 back button design that I prefer more than the Series 2. So when it comes to functionality, these back buttons work really, really well. Even Scuff makes some options for the Elite Series 2 as well. I think if back buttons are like the main thing for you and you need a 4 back button controller, I think the Series 2 is probably the best, in my experience, is like the best 4 back button design. Performs absolutely, absolutely perfectly. The Stealth Ultra is using the micro switches in the back buttons, and the way they've designed them, you are basically using your middle finger to either press the outward ones or the inside ones. I have actually gotten used to these, and for me, they work really well. Weapon swaps exactly when you want to do it, and it's honestly such a good experience using this. But I did have to develop muscle memory for pressing jump and crouch on the opposite side of the controllers. It's something that I started doing anyway because of the 2 back button design. But yeah, this is one thing that the Stealth Ultra lacks, that you cannot do a simultaneous press on each side. So you are pressing 2 buttons basically on the opposite side every time. I still think this works really well. I think the back button design, the way they've implemented The texture and everything works extremely well whilst in gaming. Yeah, I've gotten used to it so much, and I really, really enjoy using it. Initially, it took me maybe an hour or two to get used to it, but now, honestly, yeah, this is one of my favorite back buttons design right now when it comes to 4 back buttons. So performance-wise, these switches are performing really well. I am a little bit worried because I do tend to press them really harshly, and I'm a little bit worried if something happens to them. So far, so good. Nothing has happened, and we'll see what the longevity is like. I am using this controller a lot, so I will definitely be able to update you guys on that. But yeah, I think the back button design, when it comes to 4 back buttons, is really good on the Stealth Ultra. Not the perfect like the Elite Series 2, but very close second. Alright guys, let's talk about the thumbsticks, and this is where the Series 2 sort of lets me down. Now, when the controller was new, everything was fine, but very quickly, the controller developed, the right stick developed a lot of slop. Now with 0 dead zones, all this slop actually has around 7 to 8% register in each direction. The problem that I have is, when you come to the end of this slop, there is a distinct sort of wall that you have to break through to go on the other side. And it becomes very jarring, especially if you are using higher control freaks or higher sticks. This is such a bad experience, honestly. This is the reason that I don't use this controller. If this slop wasn't there, I would use this controller a lot, to be honest. Because the sticks performance is really good. They're really high resolution Xbox sticks, but yeah, this really breaks it for me. And this is the lowest stick tension. If you go to the highest stick tension, what happens is you need more force to break that initial sort of your center point, and I want the other way. When I want to increase the tension, I want the tension to be outside, so I end up using precision rings. But yeah, this thing really makes this controller unusable for me, and I have to say, amongst all my other controllers, this is probably definitely my least used controller by myself. I definitely lend it to other people if they want to borrow and stuff, but yeah, I've used this the least. But if this issue wasn't there, I would definitely think the way the back buttons are, I would definitely be using this controller a lot more. Performance-wise, Xbox sticks are actually really decent the way they are programmed. But you see, this is that slop that I was talking about. So my sticks are flipped, but you can see how much that slop. I'm still within the slop. So I'm going 9% on one direction and 5%. So the center is a little bit off as well. I'm hoping once I get the calibration option, at the moment I can't see that I think because I'm not the right beta tester version or whatever, then I might be able to fix this. But yeah, this really spoils it for me. And if I do a circularity test, you guys will see what's happening with my stick. So my right stick is fine, which is like, your standard, but my left stick has an issue where it doesn't reach on the bottom side, but thankfully it's on the left stick. And I'm hoping once the calibration tool is out, I'll be able to fix it. But when it comes to the sticks performance, they perform really well. If that slop is not there, these are very high resolution sticks. And not only the resolution is really good, the Elite Series 2 actually have a lot of options when it comes to the performance. So here in the Xbox Accessories app, you can actually change a lot about the thumbsticks. We have different response curves available to us, which is delayed, aggressive, instant, smooth. So depending on what you need, you can actually decide, let's say if your sticks are feeling a little bit slower to you, you feel like, oh, you never reached the target correctly, you can try the instant and you can change the curve. And what this does is it basically, depending on how much your register is, it will register a little bit extra input for you. Another thing that Elite allows us is we have the radial output. So it's basically just, complete like radial sort of output. The app shows axial dead zones, but these dead zones are not actually in game or any of the testing that you can do. So they are actually not present there. But if I go in and I select axis independent, then what this does is, so if you will see it, so the moment I come to the diagonals, it increases the output. So this is something, I don't know what game can use this, but if you have a game that can take a little bit more extra sort of like, output in the diagonals, we have the ability on the Elite Series 2 to do that. Now, not only you can do this for the sticks, all the time, you can actually assign this in a shift manner. So instead of, you can actually leave the primary function as default, and you can do a shift sort of curve. So when you press if you have assigned a shift button, let's say one of the back buttons, when you press that and hold, this will basically behave or whatever you've assigned. So you can sort of change the sensitivity of the controller. Personally, I've never found a use for it, because ideally you would want this kind of thing with the in-game sensitivity, not the controller, because all you're doing is you're changing the controllers, basically the way how much the sticks are registering. That's all we are changing. Now, one way that this can come in handy is, like, they say that you can reduce the sensitivity, so you can decide a delayed one. So when you press the shift button, you will move a lot, but it won't move that much. But it's the same thing. Games have in-game sensitivity settings for when you're zooming in and stuff like that. So somebody can use it. I have never been able to use the shift functionality that well. For me, the use case would be if I'm ADSing and somebody's going too fast, maybe I can do something to make that stick go faster. I don't have to zoom out and zoom in. Like, that could be an amazing thing, but that can only be achieved if this functionality is linked to the in-game sensitivity. So when I press the button, I am increasing the in-game sensitivity. I'm not increasing just how much, because in reality, I can just keep pushing the stick a bit more, and then it will register the same amount what basically is happening here. So it will do the same thing what I'm doing. So if I just completely push out, nothing is happening with that curve that I've just set. But the options are there. The Stealth Ultra is using the K-Silver J-H16 modules, and the thumb caps are a bit smaller, and they give you these generic, thumb grips. But Xbox control freaks work really well, and they are my preferred ones for aiming on any controller. But the Stealth Ultra also had some trick up its sleeve as well when it comes to the stick behavior. What we can do is we can actually decide on the response of the stick. So there is a standard response, and it gives us the ability to go into the precision and fast. Now, to me, these feel very bugged. The precision one feels as if this should be the fast, because it gets very uncontrollable very quickly. And then we have the fast, which is very slow to respond initially, and then sort of like picks up. So I don't know how they've named these, what they were thinking about it, but the standard one feels the best. And that's what I've been using. It allows us the ability to change the dead zones, but like I mentioned in my review, the built-in dead zones are still there. I think they are 3 to 4%. And that's a bit unfortunate that you can't disable them. And then also we have very minimal axial dead zones as well. But one thing the Stealth also is doing is the Pro Aim feature. Similar to what you can do on the Elite, like I showed, you can sort of change the response curve, but all this does it just cuts the travel of the stick. So what you end up doing is, so if you assign one of your back buttons into the Pro Aim feature, then it will just, and then you can decide how much of the Pro Aim basically you want to take effect. So there are different levels of it. So if I go into, like, this is the Pro Aim, if I click on it, it will give me the indicator how much I want to cut. So like this is cutting 50% of the stick, and then I can cut 80%, 90%, or I can keep it at 100, or I can bring it to just like 10%. So if I leave it at 50%, you will see what this does when we do a circularity test. So right now, my right stick will have the Pro Aim thing. So these are just my normal values on the stick. Now, when I press the Pro Aim button and I do the circularity test, you will see that it will, because I set it at 50%, is just going to make that the 50% sort of the thing that I register. So it's doing a 44%. But that's what the Pro Aim is doing, is literally just cutting that travel. Like I said, I've never found any use for it, but the controller does have that built in. So if you think you can use that, you want to cut it's not cutting the sensitivity, just cutting the travel. So if you want to cut that down for any scenario and stuff, yeah, you have the ability, but you have to assign one of the back buttons as a Pro Aim feature button to be able to use that. When it comes to performance of these sticks, now K-Silver sticks do have a little bit of a slop, but the slop is so easy to break out of, and they perform extremely well. If you haven't seen, you can check out my resolution video. The sticks have a very low resolution, and mine is very uneven. but still the controller performs extremely well for me. I like to snipe in Call of Duty, and this is a really good controller to use for that. And I have to say, I'm really getting used to it. The sticks are very good. So normally, I think what they just wanted to do is a 1.1 register in every increment. So Xbox can go down to like 0.18, 0.2 something. This is 1.1, so it's a lot of register from the get-go. And I think that's needed because of the nature of the Hall effect sticks. They are feeling a little bit sluggish from the get-go. So you do have a lot of register, and they do feel very uniform in tension. Now, the tension spring does get loose on the K-Silver sticks. My G7 SE has like very loose tension now because I have over 100 hours of gameplay on that controller. This one, not so much, but yeah, once they break into, I do find them to have a very uniform tension all the way out, so they don't lose that much towards the edges like on other controllers. I have a video planned on the K-Silver modules where I'm basically going to be explaining in detail how I feel about their performing and stuff. But this controller's performance, I have to say, is really good. When it comes to recoil control, I really find this to be a very top performing controller. Being competitive with this, it's so easy. The fact that I can use the control freaks very easily, it's a huge plus for me. And I think performance-wise, in the wired performance, absolutely amazing. I really like using this controller, and I think it's definitely one of the best performing controller for me on Xbox. I would put this definitely against the eSwap X Pro and the GameSet G7 SE when it comes to aiming performance. So personally, I would never buy an Elite Series 2 myself again because of my experience with the controller and just the way the sticks feel. But if you just look at Amazon, in the last month, over 2,000 controllers were bought, combined the different color schemes in the core and the Series 2. That's a lot. So it is loved by a lot of people. And honestly, if you need a wireless controller where you're plugging the headset in, this is still the best option on Xbox consoles. Personally, for me, like I said, I cannot play with this controller, especially when I'm used to playing with other controllers where I can keep the dead zones much lower. The slop makes it that I have to keep the dead zone much higher, and with the bumper issues and other things, it's just not a very good experience. But if I take my issues aside, like I said, so many people love it. So if you are considering this controller, yeah, it can be a really good option. I would advise you one thing: if you do buy the controller, make sure you have a lot of game time on your hand for the first, the return period that you have. So put a lot of time on the controller, because if there are any issues happening with it, like sticks or whatever, you will find out, or the bumpers and things like that. And then if you need to return it or replace it, you can do that. Also, if you buy from Microsoft Direct, they do offer a Microsoft Complete, which is £15 here in UK, and it's a 3-year damage cover, which hopefully I'll be able to do once that bumper starts getting really bad on me. For me personally, when I look at the performance, I think this is a really good performing controller. Value-wise is very questionable. I've said this in my initial review as well. I think it's a bit expensive, but I don't want to talk about value and stuff. I'm just talking about performance. When it comes to performance, wired performance, very, very good controller, from the back buttons to the sticks to the triggers and bumpers, the things that really matter to me. This controller definitely performs really, really well, and it will definitely be in my collection for a very long time. When it comes to 4 back buttons controllers, currently, if I have to pick between all the controllers that I have, it will be the eSwap X or the Stealth Ultra for the 4 back buttons controller. Yeah, they perform really well for me. And I think this is like, if you go with the Stealth Ultra, bear that in mind, that if you can use it with the wire, then yeah, it makes really good sense. So this was basically just a performance comparison I wanted to make, guys. This is not like I didn't want to go into the details of values and things like that, but yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with the controller. There are a lot of issues with the controller as well. A lot of people having connectivity issues, especially when they're using wireless. Now, I don't play wireless, so I can't tell you about the connectivity issues and stuff. For me, wired connection has been absolutely perfect. Aiming has been really good. Everything's working how it's supposed to be. I did have that grinding issue with the left stick, and I think some little part is broken off. I think it was like the ring latch or something that was grinding, because it's loose inside the controller. So Yeah, that issue has been resolved by itself. And also like I showed in my resolution video, my sticks resolution is a bit wonky, but it's like I have more register towards the bottom, so it really helps with the recoil control. That's why I didn't want to return this controller. But yeah, if you are thinking about getting this controller, performance-wise, wired, like I said, absolutely amazing performance. And yeah, I do really like this controller. Now, I just want to say thank you to everybody who subscribed to the channel. Your support really means a lot. And guys, if you have, any insight to share as well, definitely leave the comments. Any good or bad experience. The bad one, I would like to suggest that, yeah, if there is a bad experience with any of these products, definitely leave that in the comments. So it not only helps me out, it will help another gamer out if they're trying to make the decision. If they come across your comment, they might decide, oh yeah, that's a deal breaker for them. So definitely your experience, share them in the comments. And thank you so much for watching this video. Hopefully I'll catch you in one of my other videos. Bye for now.